Welcome back to the Live Your Best Life podcast, where we explore the people, experiences, and philosophies shaping success and meaning in today's world. He's a pastor, a community leader, and a trusted friend. Jeremiah Roy of Kensington Church joins us for a conversation about family, faith, and the responsibility of leading while at home and in the community. We talk about what shapes his perspectives, what strengthens his foundation, and what it means to live out your beliefs every day. Let's get into it, because strong foundations matter. Welcome, Jeremiah, to the LYBL podcast. Appreciate you being here today and looking forward to hearing what you have to say to our listeners and kind of getting a better chance to know who you are as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I love being here and thankful to be here today with you guys, man. And love what you're doing. You guys are, I think what fires me up about what you guys do, you're on mission all the time. You're trying to make an impact, make a difference. And I think that's part of our heartbeat. And so, yeah, we're glad to be here, man. Pumped to be here.
Well, let's start it off this way. So before being the lead pastor for Clarkston's campus for Kensington Church, you know, who were you or who, or what were you prior to doing that, I guess I would say?
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, it's interesting. Ministry was never like working at a church or nonprofit. That stuff never crossed my mind at all. In fact, growing up and by the time I got out of high school, I was bound for U of M and went and got a business degree and, focused on business. And for me, it was always entrepreneurial things. And my cousin worked at Flagstar Bank, Sean. And so they used to do net branching. They'd be non-depository branches. And we did mortgage origination, stuff like that. And I really loved it, that in real estate, because I thought, wow, this is awesome. I can help make an impact in people's lives, can grow, grow in our own business, making good money. And it was not until probably several years later, Marie and I were married, and we were helping out at this church. At the time, it was called Faith Church. And, the pastor is like, I think you're supposed to do ministry. And I'm like, dude, no way. I don't have a seminary degree. I'm not religious. Nothing at all like that, you know?
I'm in the mortgage business.
Yeah, totally. And it was just this thing where it struck my heart, where something started pounding in my heart and soul. And I thought, is what I'm doing right now making the biggest impact I could make? Is there more I could be doing? And almost, I'll say it this way, like an eternal impact, something that's going to echo beyond my life.
Sure.
Is how I began to think about it. And I thought, man, there needs to be a little bit more. And so that's kind of was the pathway that led us into working for the church, and not that I think the church is the only way you can make this eternal big impact. I think through nonprofits, I think things that maybe are stirring in your heart and soul, that you want to do, that's going to change the trajectory of somebody's life. That, for us, it happened to be at the moment, the church. But obviously, you and Julie know from Marie and I, it's moved into foster care and other things like that. And we're still seeking and saying, what else is there? What else can we do to make it?
Were you just trying to find your purpose in life?
It is. Yeah, absolutely, man. For me, I think that quote is just a big deal. It's like the two greatest days of your life, the day you were born. We know these because we celebrate them all the time. In marrying Maria, her family, they're not birthdays, they're called birth weeks in her family because they celebrate all week long. But for us, I think, man, it's like the day you're born, but the day you figure out why.
Yeah.
And for me, that always is thumping. It's always beating. It's always pushing on me. It gives me drive and vision and lets me dream big, even when things are stink and they're not going the way I thought, It gives me that gusto to say, okay, wait a minute. There's something worth living for.
Yeah, you just got to stop and think why am I here?
Yeah.
It's not just for the 9-to-5 job. What's my purpose here on life? And I don't think enough people grasp that and then take advantage of once they do figure that out and then going all in on that and how rewarding that can actually be.
Yeah, it's super rewarding. It's interesting. My brother is a therapist, and he was sharing years ago to me about this reality that really things for psychologists boil down to 3 questions. It's like this idea of origin. Where do I come from? Wanting to know my family of origin, who are my people, my lineage, stuff like that. Yeah. Who am I? My identity. Who am I really? What am I capable of? What am I built to do? But that question, the purpose one, what am I here for? My purpose. And he said things systemically, they kind of pull from those 3 questions, but those are really 3 critical core human questions that you should always be asking. about yourself, like my family, like what's that look like? Or even if you grew up like me, I grew up in a really dysfunctional family. So part of me is like, I came from a lot of dysfunction. So for me, it's a priority to say, how do I bring health? Not perfection. I always say there's a difference. People go from, I don't want dysfunction, I want perfection. I'm like, no, you don't. There's no such thing as a perfect family.
No, there's not.
Not at all. But a healthy family, you can do that, but moving that place, I'm like, me, purpose is a big deal. And I watch the people that are really moving and shaking the world around us, and they're making an impact, and they're moving the needle in the right direction. And I'm like, those people, when you sit down with them, within the first 2 minutes, you're going to hear what their purpose is.
Yeah.
They can't help. They talk about it.
No, they're all in, right?
Absolutely.
And they believe in what they're doing. They're trying to make a difference. And I think, a lot of people will I think we hold ourselves back.
Yep.
I think too many of us just get comfortable with the 9 to 5, but like when you're looking at the time that you have in your day, some are looking at it like, I can't wait till this day's over. And other people are looking at, I still want to accomplish this today. Right. Yeah. So, and I know everyone's built differently, but for those of us that have that passion and that drive, you could take a 24-hour period and to someone, that 24 hours is just, I go to work for 8 hours. I go home and watch my TV show, and then I go to bed, obviously eat my 3-course meal throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then you have the person that has a structure. It doesn't even have to be a structured day. Yep. But they're looking at everything that they could accomplish and get done that day to either add value or have purpose. And it's just completely different. So it's always mind-boggling how people see it so differently.
It is, man. And it's interesting in life. You're right. You're either drifting or you're being directional. And to your point, some people are super strategic. Like Maria is very strategic. Like I'll have an idea and I'm more impulsive, and she's like, okay, well, how do we do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. She's like, no, let's figure it out now.
Oh yeah.
But it's been a good calibration between the two of us where I'm like, we could sit and try to figure it out all day long and do nothing, or we could jump the gun and then do something, but do it haphazardly and half-heartedly. And so I've been thankful for her to always slow me up, and say, wait a minute, how are we doing this? Why are we doing it? But your time is so valuable. I think I've been noticing more with our, we got 4 kids, and the oldest one, Caleb, getting married, works here with you. And I've told him, I said, dude, you're so fortunate to work with Tim and Julie. These are visionaries. These are people that believe, and they've got values that like you concretely hold you guys together, tie you to your mission, even living your best life. That's such a valuable thing. I think that what I've learned in the past several years of, church work, and ministry work and stuff has been the value of life. Being at a lot of funerals, those have been sad moments, sometimes celebration moments, but hospital rooms, things like that. It slows me down every time I leave with a higher appreciation of the value of life.
Absolutely.
And I just see how fragile and tempered it is. So I'm like, man, this is the most valuable thing you've been given is your time on earth. Yeah. And it's like, you look at it, like look at a tombstone, you see this date of birth, death, and that dash in between, it seems really insignificant. And it's actually the most significant thing about your life. Like, how did you spend it? And so and there's been moments raising the kids where people are like, oh, it's going to go by so fast. And I remember when the boys were little,
you're like, what?
I'm like, oh man, couldn't go quick enough. It's driving me nuts. And now I look back and I'm like, dang it, I would do anything to go back just for a day and spend time with my older 2, Caleb and Noah, when they were younger. But now, now they're launching and moving.
I was reading a book, and inside the book that I was reading, it says that, when you're at whatever age, let's say, me 53, I would trade all of my money in or spend it all if I could go back to a certain age. When you're 80 years old, you would give up your entire fortune to be 40 again.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you can make that fortune again, but you don't have time on your side anymore, right?
Yeah.
We're already one less day in our existence. So it's that, what do we take it, or how do we make the most out of our time on earth? And when we're young, we take that for take it for
just granted.
Granted. I was trying to think of the word. Take it for granted. And then, as we get older, we become more wise, and we understand that we're not promised tomorrow.
Absolutely. And it's funny thinking of those, the 2 greatest days. of your life, the day you're born, and then the day you figure out why. And those 3 questions my brother-in-law, had shared with me, I'm like, man, yeah, what am I here for? My purpose. And to go back to my identity, I'm like, well, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? What really makes my heart beat? I've got a buddy, it's an engineer, and he just absolutely loves the mathematics behind it. And, he does civil engineering and all the stuff that goes with it. I'm like, oh man, that drives me nuts to be at a desk all day looking at numbers and looking at drawings. But for him, it's life-giving. For me, I'm an extrovert by nature, and I love being with people. I get a ton of energy from it, and I love helping other people kind of succeed, not just succeed, but succeed when they get traction going in the right direction, they want to go. And so I think I would say right now to whoever's listening or watching, I'm like, what makes your heart beat? You know what I mean, Tim? Like what really gets you excited and fired up? Because what I've learned is if that is like whatever it is that gets you excited, if you can put more energy and skills and time around it, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And that,
And you're going to enjoy life more too.
You're going to enjoy life more.
You're going to enjoy your job more if your job incorporates what your passion is, right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to enjoy your job more. You're going to enjoy life more.
Yeah.
You're going to get more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree.
No, totally.
So I know, and the listeners don't know, but you have how many children?
Yeah, we've got 4, and we call it parenting
What are their
whiplash.
ages?
Yeah, we've got one that just turned 20. We've got one that's 16. He's going to be 17 pretty soon. The other one's 11, soon to be 12. And then Desi she's 5, just turned 6. So we call them round 1 and round 2.
Oh yeah.
We break them up in segments. You know,
definitely do.
Yeah, because it was just a couple months ago, Marie and I, we laughed because I go, holy cow, we're making wedding plans with Caleb, and we were doing literally kindergarten roundup with Desi all in the same day. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
How the heck did we do all this? But part of it, the cool thing is, I'm like, well, we've learned from some of our mistakes from the early years, parenting, which has been great. And the other part is I think there's a deep appreciation as we've watched, like you and I were just talking about, time fleeting and going by pretty quick. And so we don't take for granted, man, with Isaac and Desi. We're like, even the things that might seem menial, and they're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Whatever little steps we're going through with them,
And you start thinking back, Caleb already is getting married. And you start thinking about the Desi, and you look at the time that went by so fast that Caleb's actually getting married now. And now it's like, hey, I got to slow this time down.
Yeah.
And being more intentional, with our children. I talk about, and me and you've talked about this in the past, of course, once you get married, you have to continue dating your spouse. But then we've talked about dating our children, spending one-on-one time with our children so they could get the time that they need with each individual parent or, with siblings or whoever, slow that time down. And instead of being on vacation with all 4 children, let's say, or 5 children or 3 children, whatever people have, because most of the time they don't get that one-on-one time. Just taking a quick weekend away and just focusing on that child, I think just has a huge impact.
Oh, it has a huge
moving forward,
impact.
especially with everything that's going on in the world today.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you and, it's like, I look at a leadership square and I look at you and Julie, and you're really just top high capacity leaders. And it's almost like subconsciously you guys live out mission every day. I watch it through your intentionality with your family, with your team. You have an amazing team here. I'd say to anyone that is currently part of this Live Your Best Life community, your clients, people they're thinking I should refer my friend here, you'd be crazy not to. You guys are super competent, but that calling, that burn to be on mission and help people live their best life is a big deal, and just being intentional that way. Like, I think, like, how can I be more intentional and live my best life? Or how do I slow time down, be more purposeful around it?
Yeah, you have to be more purposeful for sure.
You do, because then it gives weight and gravitas versus you were saying earlier as we started talking, some people just go and 24 hours, goes by and it's kind of like, oh, another day. I'm like, no, man, that's a lost day.
Absolutely.
That didn't have any purpose.
Can't get that back.
Can't get it back.
One less day.
Yeah. So,
well, I think we make choices in life, right? Every day you make hundreds of choices probably throughout the day. And you can make a choice to have a good day or a bad day.
Yep.
You could, make all different kinds of decisions throughout the day. And even in our childhood, and I think a lot of times what happens is if we were brought up in a rough situation, or maybe our childhood wasn't so great, we use that as an excuse
Yeah.
why we're not having a better time, in our adulthood.
Yep.
Maybe, born in inner city Cleveland or inner city Detroit, and we use that as an excuse. That's our scapegoat, right? And I use that from like my family, right? Growing up inner city Cleveland, parents didn't have a whole lot of money, but that drove me to be better, right?
Yeah.
And I love my parents, to death, and they did a great job raising us with what they had.
Yeah.
My dad didn't even finish high school, worked his butt off, multiple jobs, and wasn't the best father by any means, but he ended up becoming a very good grandfather. So I'm glad he made that decision later in life. And even my mom will say he, wasn't a best husband, but he was a good grandfather. Mm-hmm. So, but we make decisions from that. And I think we use that as a crutch too many times, but people could live. We talk about living your best life.
Yeah.
You get to pick and choose whatever that is. You get to pick and choose the retirement that you have. That's all on you. If you don't have a successful life or successful retirement, it might hurt to hear this, but that's on you. There's exterior situations that come into play. Yep. And I know you've talked about this in the past, but you didn't have a great childhood growing up either.
No.
But you chose to use that as motivation and change your life. And you have a great relationship now with your parents.
Yeah.
And you also look at that as a stepping stool or a learning experience, and one to talk to, whether it's the church or whether it's your own family or friends. And I think that's awesome because, it's very easy to fall back into the situation and I guess feel sorry for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. It is too. And we don't even realize, living an apathetic life, really what it's doing, it's causing you just to be cyclical and repeat the past and the future. And you don't want, and then when I say that, don't get me wrong, you should slow down and go, here's an assessment of where I was and what I went through, either what I did to myself, what was done to me, whatever it is. And here's what I encourage people right now: get healing. If you've got hurt, you're going to keep carrying it into the future. This is why sometimes people go, oh, this happened to me and this happened and this is going on. And I'm always slowing them down. I'm like, listen, what's the common denominator in your story right now? You. And so at some point you have to get healing, or you have to change, or you have to become intentional. You have to discover purpose. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep telling the same story over and over. It's like rereading. The chapter might have a new title, but it's the same content. I'm like, well, that's crazy.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that people are afraid to get help?
Oh, man.
Are they afraid to admit their problems?
I do. I think they're afraid to admit their problems. I think we live in a world where it's like, I always call it death by comparativism. Mm-hmm. Like you get on Facebook and they'll go, man, that family is awesome. Look at them smiling. Yeah. And I'm like, what? That family was probably at each other's throats and debating and arguing. We don't even know, or look at their marriage. It's fantastic. Is it? We don't know, and if it is, I'm going to tell you what, it didn't accidentally happen. They were intentional, self-sacrificial, or look at that guy, what he built. That's probably handed to him. Yeah. Or maybe he had sacrificed like crazy, was really purposeful and intentional every day building it, Yeah. So I think we're afraid to admit, it's interesting whether you're in any kind of recovery program. And I always say, for me, I've been part of a ton of recovery programs, not because I ever had substance abuse, but my mom did. She was a horrible alcoholic. I mean, horrible. And my dad was a massive enabling codependent and a very not nice guy to be around for most of my life growing up, and so step one is coming out of denial. And I always tell people, if you can come out of denial and define your reality, it can be sobering, it can be painful, it can be embarrassing, but it's okay. Because I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times your neighbor has got just as much junk or garbage or baggage they're carrying, or, because I've had so many people come to me and go, dude, I wish I could deal with some of the stuff the way you guys have. And we don't have it all figured out by any means, but we've made a lot of progress. Like I know, I'm like, I don't want to raise my kids in a addictive household. I don't want to be somebody that screams and flips out on my kids when they screw up. I mean, we might want to, but we can't.
We can't. Yeah. Well, there's times, but
there's times, no, none of us are perfect. But I look now and I'm so glad that it was almost like this family movement. It started with my younger sister literally writing a letter to my mom. And she wrote a letter to my mom and she said, look, I noticed one day when you dropped off one of our kids, I thought I smell alcohol and I don't want you driving your grandkids, my kids anymore. And then she shared it with us, and all of a sudden it became this huge, crazy family conundrum. And we'd all been living in denial. I was a pure adult child of an alcoholic, meaning in my role, my oversister, Denise was a massive achiever, director of nursing at U of M, all this kind of stuff. My younger sister for a season was a bit of a partier. And I was like an achiever, but just made everybody happy. Just made everything feel peaceful, And so when Jessica did that, I'm like, what did you do? You're going to cause chaos in the family. And she was like, it already is chaotic. She's like, what are you talking about? And so it was a moment where we all came together as a family, and I'll never forget how mad my dad was and mom, but it shifted us where they went to a rehab center together as a couple.
Wow.
And that was the shifting point. And for the past 14 years, my mom has found sobriety. My dad, who I promise you, Tim, he was the last person I wanted to be around. Yeah. When Maria and I used to go to a birthday party or something, I would grip the steering wheel so hard, and she'd look over and she'd go, what's wrong with you? And I go, nothing. What's wrong with you? No, obviously something's wrong with me, And I realized the more she dug into it, 'cause she grew up in a pretty healthy family, she's like, you've got to deal with this with your dad, or you have to deal with it in your own heart and let it go. And it's been awesome. I actually just spent half the day yesterday with my dad, and I love being with him. And
Isn't that awesome?
It's awesome. And it sounds so crazy. I'm like, I know that guy from the past that raised me. The guy didn't want to be around, couldn't stand, just mean to me. Now I look and I'm like, I don't know where he went. He's still there. He's an older guy now, but he's still there. Same guy, but it's like a new soul. And so But
you could have held on to that grudge forever.
100%. I could have held on to it.
You have to, offering forgiveness.
Yeah.
Even to someone that may have earned that forgiveness or not, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think enough people realize that when we do forgive that person, whether they've earned it or not, it frees us up inside.
It does, because that's what's crazy is when, we don't realize when we have an offense, and we all we're in a culture where everybody gets offended. I had a lot of legitimate reasons, and I'd say if you're listening right now, you probably have a lot of legitimate reasons why you've been offended in life, and I validate those. I'm not taking those away. I've learned that too. I don't want to diminish when people have been hurt. But what I'll tell you, and what was told to me, and it helped me a lot, is every time I get offended, I was building one fence post at a time. And all of a sudden I built a big fence around myself, and I was untouchable. I thought I was, and I was imprisoned. I didn't even realize hurting myself
at that point.
Yeah. And now my sons, they go over, like they went over there a couple of days ago, took down all my parents, their Christmas decorations, put them all up for them. My mom made them a bunch of, they don't even know the people I was raised by are different people. And I'm like, man, if I would have kept that fence up, I think I would have robbed my children from their grandparents.
Absolutely.
Think about that. My kids who were born in this world, I would have robbed them from their grandparents, and they would have never understood why. And then the crazy thing is, here's that cyclical part. Then maybe when Maria and I get older and we have grandkids, because if I would have raised them that way, they would have been like, well, that was normal to not go visit your grandparents, so we're not going to come visit you all the time. Yeah. I'm like,
it's great that you actually realize that.
Yeah. So it's like by offering forgiveness, you're really changing legacy. You're to your point, what you and Julie and your whole team burn for, you're beginning to live your best life, because your best life should be full of forgiveness, should be full of new mercy. It should be full of new opportunity to say, that stunk. I wish it didn't happen the way, but it did. But what can we do different?
Yeah. How do we go from here?
Yeah.
And it's funny that you bring that up, because I had a falling out with my dad, alcoholic. Yeah. He was abusive as a kid, but I think at that point, I knew it was normal.
Yeah.
Getting your butt whooped, right?
Totally.
It was normal back then for me, at least. Wasn't the best kid. But he was abusive to my mom, not physically, but just emotionally and everything else. Alcoholic, cheated on my mom, and, pretty much had to force my mom into getting a divorce from him. But I didn't have a relationship with him for many years. And then when I had my first child, when I had Devin, I remember my wife sitting there telling me, like, hey, I understand that you guys don't get along and you have every reason to be upset with your dad, but he should get to know his grandchild.
Yeah.
And our son should get to know his grandfather.
Yeah.
And let them figure that out, that relationship.
Yeah.
And when I did, then I started to realize how my dad was working on himself and making changes behind the scene. And he ended up becoming one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Before he passed away, and he changed completely with all of his grandkids. like I said, he became a better father to my sisters and myself, but really excelled as a grandparent.
Yeah.
And even my mom, who she said, best thing that ever happened to me, because she used to get a bunch of migraines. She said, the best thing ever happened was when I got a divorce. She said, my migraines completely went away. So getting that divorce from my dad actually freed her up from her migraines. But even she, came to the realization that she could even see that he's changed, which was good. And matter of fact, they were able to coexist at parties and different things like that. But my mom, who actually has Alzheimer's, is in a nursing home. When my dad was in hospice, and we had told my mom was obviously with Alzheimer's all over the place. Mm-hmm. She was actually very coherent at the time when I told her. And she said, can I say goodbye to him? Mm-hmm. And she actually, my sister got her on the phone. Yep. And she said, I forgive you for everything that you've done, and that you actually changed. And I was glad to see that. And you actually became a good grandfather to your grandkids. Wow. And then she was somewhat incoherent after that, but the clarity that she had at that moment, and it shows that we can change. Mm-hmm. And now with us, if we held on to that anger towards someone, it doesn't have to be our parent, it could be anyone. Yep. We're only just limiting ourselves and really hurting our own self. So it's good just to forgive. That doesn't mean you have to be best friends with that person anymore. That doesn't even have to have any kind of relationship with that person if it's an ex-friend or something like that. But just getting that done and out of the way, it's off of your conscience. Your heart has a chance to heal again. Yeah. And I think it's just a freeing feeling. It is. And you are right. Either way, it's a fork in the road, but one thing is for sure, either way you go, like when you forgive, you walk away with freedom. And you may not walk away with a forever relationship with that person because you need some boundaries, or they're unwilling to change, or who knows, or the other fork in the road, you walk into freedom with them, into a new future, new direction. And that's a stronger relationship. Stronger relationship. Yeah. And I know it brought us back to what we were talking about earlier too, is purpose. Like if my purpose and vision is to build because it's a high value for Maria and I, to build a strong family. And I don't just mean nuclear family. I mean, I'm talking, could be cousins, could be friends, could be anybody that's on mission. Really live your best life. I always say the word community, because it is a community of people. It's like a family on mission. The more people get tied into what the vision is you and Julie are doing, it's not just like, can we help you manage your wealth? Absolutely. Better than anybody. Can we help you make very strategic decisions that are going to protect your future, provide for what you need? Of course. But can we help you open your heart and your eyes to saying, now that you only have so much time, and you're looking at your retirement, what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of life do you want your kids or grandkids or those that you love and care about really deeply? What do you want them to experience that's going to transcend, what you're doing? And I think that kind of purpose, it gives you power to actually, I'm going to forgive. It's not easy. It's a pain in the butt, in fact, but I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to move forward because the purpose of what I'm about, the vision, is bigger than just my feelings at the moment. And I feel like that's where so many people get caught up, and we're myopic. We're only looking at just us and how we feel for that day. And I just encourage people, like, I'm not validating feelings or anything at all, or take it one day at a time. I get it, but have a bigger vision for your life, and it will let you live your best life. I was reading the book 10 times is easier than 2 times, right? 2x, 10x, then 2x. And it's so true, because I think most people get stuck in that 2x mode and not really seeing the bigger vision of that 10x. Yep. And never get there because they can't get past that, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say for someone who hasn't been into a church or, whatever religion they're following, right? They haven't been there for, I don't know, couple years, maybe a dozen years. Yeah. What would you say they could expect now? What's different? Like, coming into Kensington. Yeah, what would they expect to see or feel coming in? Absolutely. It's interesting. I love that you asked that question. The guy that founded it, Steve Anders, years ago, he had discovered, he goes, man, church became this thing where it was really focused on religious activity and performance. He had to dress a certain way, look a certain way, talk a certain way. Mm-hmm. And he really believed deep in his heart that God created people and had a big plan for people. And he felt like, man, we've created so many barriers for people being reminded how loved they are, how valued they are, and how purposeful their life can be. And he's like, we gotta burst down these barriers,
And so like when you come with us, you come to a group of people that aren't perfect at all. You know, I try to, when I'm trying to share great stories from stage, I'm trying to share them about other people. Like we told the story yesterday for this young lady named Kayla, a mom, and she shared how she's overcome depression, overcome some massive anxiety barriers, and everybody were clapping and celebrating her. And just before that, I had shared a story about something I screwed up on, because I want people to know we're a community of people that are in this together. This isn't like come and listen to Jeremiah. He's got it all figured out. No, he doesn't. You know, not at all, man. I mean, I'll never forget when we were launching Kensington, the campus, Clarkson that we're at. We had a guy was coming down our street really fast. Our hill, it's kind of like a downhill slope in our neighborhood. And he was speeding pretty quick. And a young guy, and we all done that, been there. Well, I yelled at him. I had a football in my hand. I was playing football with the kids, and I threw the football at the back of his truck and his tire. And he stopped, slammed on the brakes, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Slow down," you know? Yeah. And he goes, "Well, I wasn't speeding." And we were yelling. And finally he goes, "Okay, I'll slow down." And he takes off, and I look down, and I have this Kensington sign, yard sign in my front yard. And I'm like, "By the way, come to church." You know, I'm the jerk pastor that threw a football at your car, you know? So I guess saying all that to say this, it's a group of people where we're really saying like, how do we help each other be reminded that we believe, you know, we're not forcing anyone else, but we'd say we believe as a community that God deeply loves us and created us. And we believe that he did for a great purpose, that you were born on purpose for a purpose, you know, and that's where it brought me to back that Mark Twain quote, right? You know, the 2 greatest days of your life, day you're born, day you figure out why. And a place where it's not judgmental, but a place where we're honest. Yeah. I'd say it's authentic. I think people more than ever, we're craving authenticity. Look at how all these massive media moguls are falling apart, you know, and they're getting made fun of now from CBS and NBC and all. Because like people are like, well, who can we trust? Yeah. Well, you can trust people being authentic. They may not have every answer you need, but they're trying to move in the right direction. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move people in a direction where you know you're loved by God and you know that you have a great purpose in your life. I think
it's important, especially how you said you're authentic and you're a real person. Yeah. You're not perfect.
Not at all.
You have issues and you express them and talk about them freely, you know, at church. And I think that's what a lot of people like to hear because I grew up Catholic, you know, went to school or went to church 5 days a week before school. Yeah. And then church on Sundays. But, you know, it's the same thing, you know, which of course is great for the Catholics. Nothing wrong with that. And but the sermon and is the only thing that's different is the reading or whatever, the gospel. Other than that, everything is absolutely the same. Yeah. And because I've had numerous conversations with our priest, and I love the guy. He was great, Father Decca, back in Cleveland, at St. Hyacinth, the church that I actually went to. He's a great guy, but when you talk to them, it was completely different. Like bad, good, and not necessarily that you're learning from that person and their own experience, right? And I think that's a little bit different. That when you walk into Kensington, we could feel that. Yeah, and everyone's wrestling with different problems.
Absolutely.
Right? What do you see? Like common things why people are coming back to the church. Yeah. Now, like what are things some of the people are wrestling with? Yeah. With their faith.
Absolutely. I think with their faith, it's almost like you get people coming. There's obviously there's a pain point. Pain will get you to come back in to see the doctor, to see the dentist, to see whatever. And I think there's a reality that spiritual pain, or it could be, I'll say a broken heart, or a heavy heart and grieving heart. Maybe people out here listening right now and their heart has been super heavy over maybe a relationship that's it's tense with an older child now, and how do I reconcile that? Or how do I been living in a relationship or marriage that we're together, we're roommates, but we're definitely not partners. We're not lovers. We've lost track of all that. So people, I think they're coming in seeking around pain. Number one, and they're looking the same way you go to a doctor or dentist. They're looking for a deity. They're looking for a bigger, higher calling or being, and so they're coming to church, which is we're like, well, we don't want to offer them religion, and I'd say that like I love the Catholic Church in the sense of the liturgical thing. These are like guardrails. Guardrails are great, so you don't go flying off the road, right? And I think they're spiritual pathways, but within that pathway, that roadway, we're trying to say how can we be really clear that we're human beings, that you do need God. In my heart, that's what I believe. Like, you do need God. You do need to hear his voice. You need to hear and experience his forgiveness. You need to let him cultivate forgiveness in you. And I'd say it's not only those pain points, but it's also purposeful points. Like, how do I find the meaning of life here?
Yeah.
How do what we've been talking about a lot of this podcast already? How do we find deeper purpose? And it is, C.S. Lewis says, if you've been looking for something in this world, and you've looked and looked, and maybe some of the people, listeners, you've got some people in your, LBYL community that, man, they're superstars. They've built big businesses. They've done well. They've accumulated wealth. It's something to be proud of. They're
Sure.
incredible, high capacity people. I'm like, man, I wish I could be like them. And, but I'd say, even if you got really honest with them, to your point, you said earlier, they'd trade in all that to go back to be 40.
Oh, yeah.
Trade it all and go back to be 20. And so C.S. Lewis says, if you're looking for what really is going to, scratch that itch you got in your soul, it's going to really hit that longing in your soul. Mm-hmm. It's probably of another world. It's probably not in this world.
No.
And that's what I've discovered in people. And I don't pretend to be perfect about it. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I'll tell people, you get on it. If you're feeling that in your heart, seek God, because you're going to get a reward. You're going to get a reward of beginning to you have your faith grow. You're going to get the reward of actually getting to hear your Creator's voice, I believe, and you're going to discover, relief from some of this pain, healing, and you're going to discover a pathway of bigger purpose.
And the hard part, I would imagine, because I've gone through this, whether it's losing a spouse, a brother, family member, parent, whatever.
Yep.
Why would God take this person? And especially when they were such a great person.
Yeah.
And, I think that I struggled with my faith after losing my wife. It was like, well, why? Why? And I'm sure that has a reason why some people will seek out God, right, and come back to the church, or the opposite. It'll repel them and get them to be one of those people that are missing church for a few years, 10 years, or whatever. Then you have to kind of get back to reality of why we exist here today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've and those are the most difficult moments. And like I shared earlier, funerals or hospital visits, and these moments, it brings back the precious value of life. And when it's removed from us, it creates pain that we can't even begin to describe, and hurt. And we have to project and put that pain somewhere. And I think we're not built to carry it. And I would encourage people, it's okay to be mad at God. It's okay to be upset. And we should be. Like, I always say, if God can't handle us being upset at him, he ain't a God worth following. He's not even a God. Yeah. Like, if he's going to get super offended and his feelings hurt, I'm like, well, he's no different than me, but he should be able, describe him as a loving father, where a child's upset and mad at their dad, but the dad still embraces and loves them anyhow, and I think that would be my heartbeat, is that people say it's okay to be as real as you can be as authentic and honest as you can be, and still keep leaning into God, because I would tell them, every listener right now, you are deserving, you are loved, you are deserving of your Father's love, your Heavenly Father's love, and it's healing, and it's powerful, and it creates deep purpose, and it moves us. It allows us, after a season of hurt, to go through healing, but to be made whole again and move forward, and so that I would encourage people, just go all in.
Go all in.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, go all in. How do you know something's going to be successful?
You won't
at anything if you don't go all in, right? Even a relationship, especially.
Yeah.
If you're not going all in with your spouse, then how do you expect to have a great relationship with that spouse, right?
Absolutely.
And you've gone through a lot with, whether it's like you said, you've been there for weddings, you've been there for funerals, and you could really see what truly matters in life.
Oh yeah.
And by going all in to whatever we're dealing with, our job, our children, that's what bothers me, is not seeing someone go all in with their children, especially, when you could help mold that child into being an amazing human person. And it actually works the opposite too, because you have some kids that, as they grow up, they want to be the opposite of their parent. I remember growing up thinking to myself, I want to be everything that my dad isn't.
Yep.
I don't want to be who my dad is. He's an alcoholic. He's abusive. I want to be the best father that I can actually be. And that's what drove me for a long time. I wanted to be a father And I wanted to be married and have children at an early age.
Yep.
And I remember when I had my son, I was so excited. And now I got this little guy that I could actually do the things that my dad didn't do for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we take that. I'm not saying I'm just saying
for you,
some people in general, they don't put that time or effort in with their kids, and it's really crazy.
No, absolutely. And it's something. Sorry. Oh, you're okay. It's something too, I'd say, because we can feel guilty, or if we say that, I'll that's why I constantly try to lead out with, here's where I made a mistake, but here's where I'm learning, whether it be with parenting or whatever. But the process of going all in lets you discover what doesn't work and what does work. It allows you to discover what you don't like and what you not just do like, but what you love. Mm-hmm. And I would challenge us. I would not pull any punches about it, because people's feathers will get ruffled and they say, well, I'm not going all in enough, or I wasn't good enough parent. I wasn't. Like, man, I'm not saying any of that. That's for you to determine. But what I would say is, have you given yourself a chance to determine that? Have you been pushing all in? Or even now in this next stage of life, for those that are retiring, and it's like, man, live your best life, but like expand your heart and vision. Like where do your kids, where are they part of that? Where can you create legacy in those moments? And it actually creates an excitement, because it might allow you to go all in again. Say, I already went all in and raised them and did everything and sent them out. I always hear that. Well, go all in again, because they're right at the precipice of their highest income producing years. They're
sure.
They've got kids. They're right in the thrust of it too. And you're this sage. You're this person that's gained a lot of wisdom of what to do, what not to do, or and whatever, And I'm like, you're going to find so much joy in helping them and crafting and grafting them into part of that journey with you. Where they'll. And
if it's great, if they're able to understand that they failed somewhere, or they haven't been the best parent, or they haven't put the time in, the greatest thing is forgive yourself and then change that. Mm-hmm. You have a chance to change no matter what age you're at, or
absolutely
what stage your relationship is with that particular person. Yeah. You could change it at any minute.
Any minute. And I'm telling you, just to encourage people, if they feel like they've got a deficit or they've got dissonance between them and, their kid, I'd say I had that big time with my dad. And for a big season of my life, I'd say, man, there's nothing that can ever change that. And my dad did hard work, and I say the hardest work in life is heart work. It's not the external stuff, it's the internal stuff. So that hard heart work that he did made a soft heart, and that soft heart softened my heart. Yeah. It just did. And it transformed me and brought me closer. And so I would just encourage people, like, don't let your heart get all protected. Open it up. Let it get bruised up a little bit. Because it's a work, that hard work of softening their heart over something to their kid. It's going to soften their kids.
How rewarding was that? Because your dad could have easily said, well, I'm trying and he's not open, so I'm done.
I'm done. Right? And he could have. And the truth be told, that's the way I was leading out in life. I would have made it really easy for him just to do that, because I wasn't creating any openings, no opportunities to connect, nothing at all, And so he was really, really, really intentional about that. And so I'm super thankful he was, because I realized not only did it's restoring that, and we need that in life. Mm-hmm. We're made to be together. We're better together. And so it's like, you're crazy if you say otherwise. You're robbing yourself of an experience that God created you to experience. But it also, my dad blessed me in the future, even one day when he might pass. I don't want him to pass, but one day he's 80. So it's just a matter of time. But, but he's given me a gift of two of my kids, his grandkids, of experiencing that. And then one day, hopefully, God willing, they'll want to do the same with me. Yeah. And I'm like, man, if I just would have had a hard heart about it and not done anything, and then maybe my kids one day would have been like, well, that's how you were with your dad. Well, we don't need to spend a ton of time with you.
You realize after it's already too late sometimes. Like I remember complaining when I was a child, probably about 11, I'm guessing. Probably similar to you, because your dad's was in a trade somewhat too. But I remember holding a flashlight, carrying shingles, all these different things for my dad, because he had his normal job as a millwright in a factory, but then he would always do side jobs. And as an adult, probably maybe 25, something like that, I remember remodeling my basement because I had someone come out, give me an estimate. Let's say it was $60,000. I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. It took me 2 years, but I did everything from framing to plumbing to electrical to drywall, everything got done. And I remember sitting on the couch, I think I was drinking a beer, and I was probably staring off into space. And I remember my wife asking me like, hey, what are you thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if my dad didn't force me to go to all these different places that I did not want to be at, I wanted to be on the baseball field playing with my buddies or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, I would have never been able to do this. And so I remember picking up the phone and giving him a call. And I think that was probably one of his proudest moments, was realizing like, hey, he actually appreciates this for what I actually taught him. And I didn't think he was teaching me anything at the time.
No, I agree. I know my dad had all these sayings growing up, and I think I actually said one to my son probably about a year ago. It's funny. Have you ever noticed you're like, I'm not going to be like him. And then you sound just like your dad, but I told Kayla, I think it was Noah. I said, if I didn't have my boot halfway up your butt, you wouldn't get anywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what my dad always told me. But he was right, man. Whether it would be work ethic or deal with this, same deal. I'd be around job sites helping him. He was a foreman at General Motors, but then had a small construction company on the side. And I remember one time he told me we were sheathing a roof with plywood, and he told me to put space in between them, and I didn't do it. Like he told me, he goes, you got any money? And I go, money for what? He goes, you need to sue your brain for non-support because you did that totally wrong. I had to go up there on the roof, man, and set the saw and cut little gaps between the plywood so that, it could breathe and everything, have airflow. And, but I look back and I was so annoyed in that moment, but I was so thankful that he made me do it the right way and get some work ethic and get some grit, You
learn from your parents or whoever you come in contact with, you learn from them, whether it's, I want to do it that way or I want to do it a totally different way, but you learn something from someone.
You do. Yeah. I think it's so interesting. Now there's like books written on it. Now it's become the sexy thing to talk about grit, but we went through a season in society and it's still there where grit's not sexy. It's not cool, but I'm like, man, I'm so thankful my dad helped me have grit, about things where it's like, hey, grind that out, get back at it. Like, don't give up.
Most people are taking the easy way out now.
Yeah. Ask for help, ask for guidance and wisdom and figure out how to get better at this.
Sure.
Quit. And I'm like super thankful. And for most people, I'm like, man, just have a little grit about what you're doing and you'd be surprised what'll unfold.
Yeah. People give up way too easy. Mm-hmm. I know you see a lot of people coming in and you have conversations with people at church or just people that you come in contact with that are very successful, but how do you get them to understand, being more meaningful?
Yeah.
Because I think, the most successful person isn't the happiest person all the time. Sometimes they are. And they also will go to their grave thinking, man, I accomplished a lot. Mm-hmm. But what was the meaning behind what I actually did? Was there any substance to it besides just generating dollars or wealth?
Yeah. It was interesting. Steve Andrews, the guy that founded Kensington, he had been is a great mentor to me and a super great. He's one of those guys where Kensington exploded in multi-campus, 50 or 60 church plants, massive global partners, like even the Pokot people where we do wells in Africa. There's 1 million folks in Pokot that don't have access to fresh water. And Kensington's been part of, I think 250,000 people now have clean water wells, all from this guy's vision 30 years ago.
It's crazy.
Steve, but he had told me when his dad passed away, he said the idea of mortality hit him like never before. It's almost like we were talking about earlier, time's flying by, and our kids think sometimes, or even we've thought, all of us have, I got forever. I got all the time in the world. Well, no, you don't. And so he said when his dad passed, and he was really close with his dad, the idea of mortality hit him like a ton of bricks, like never before. And then he began to ask this question that he always challenges us with, and I'd say I challenge all of us with right now, myself included, every day. What is going to live beyond me? Sometimes you probably have to answer that question from a financial perspective. Can my wealth live beyond me so I can give a legacy gift to my loved ones or to a nonprofit or to something charitable that I really believe in? I would ask that question every day. And you begin to notice all these align with purpose. Is my purpose something that can live beyond me? Mm-hmm. Is it not just for me? Number one, is it for somebody else? And when you say, can it live beyond you? I don't mean like a building that's going to be standing in 500 years from now. I'm talking about building up of a community or building up of a person, building into your grandkid, building into a value that you shifted. Like, hey, we didn't have these values growing up, but now we do. And I want them to be imparted to my kids and my grandkids. And it's really asking the question, what will live beyond you? And those have been some of the big questions. And I've had conversation with guys that own a steel factory, and one guy's a super high level, operating officer at General Motors. And it's interesting. These are high capacity people, Tim, that like, I'd be blessed to have half their intelligence, right? They're just brilliant. They're amazing. Super proud of all they've done. Good friend of mine, orthopedic surgeon, they're just brilliant guy, but it's like when you ask them those questions, it really cuts to the heart, and they start talking about, like my friend that's orthopedic surgeon, he'll start talking about his kids and now his grandkid. Yeah. And that's all he thinks about. And now a big part of his practice is like, he shifted most of his practice where he's become more of kind of a teaching center, and he's doing less surgical things on his own. He's doing more imparting to the next generation. And like, he's realizing like, this is what really matters. It's going to live beyond me.
That's important. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you say, like people that you've talked to, maybe they're later in life.
Yeah.
And like regrets that they might've had, that they wish they would have done or taken care of prior.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you said you attend a lot of funerals. I'm sure you got a lot of people that are older and just in general talking to you because obviously you're the pastor of the church.
Yeah.
But, what's something that they may be regretting later in life?
Oh man. I think for some, what's interesting. I've never heard somebody say, I wish I could go back to work one more day. Like they've never said that. Even people that were great entrepreneurs and built some really incredible businesses and wealth, they never like, I want to make one more dollar.
Yeah.
The proverbial one more dollar, or could I have built out the company a little bit better? None of that's there. I'm sure it was like at the forefront of their mind and the heat of it. It always comes back to family. I mean, at the very center of it, and then it will come around forgiveness or connectedness. Even I don't even hear like, I wish I would have went skydiving, or I wish I would have went. I don't hear those things. I mean, I think those are exciting and we should do those things. But what I hear at the core of it is, again, that question, what's living beyond me? And it's always around their kids or their grandkids or their loved ones, somebody, or really dear friends, and it's, they wish they would have spent more time building into something that was more meaningful, something that was going to live beyond them. They really wish they spent more time with their kids, or at least put more focus. We can't allocate value all around how much time you're with your kids or grandkids, but are you thinking about them? Are you encouraging them? Are you helping them succeed? Are you helping them build out their dreams and their vision, for their life? And that's what I hear all the time. Those are the regrets. And often, there's opportunity for that family of that loved one that's maybe passed. I'm like, well, what can you do to pick up the baton? What can you do to grab that torch and run it, down the field? What can you do to do that? And so, and it's challenging in those moments. People think we're like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and so, and my heart is always like, I hope you do. Like, I hope you're disciplined and make a commitment to do that, to do what matters.
Sure. Well, that's why we're so passionate about living your best life.
Yeah.
Because it's like, let's start now. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And, we talk about doing business with our clients and doing life, because I think that if this was just all about business, then I would be failing, as owner of Strategic Wealth. That's just not what I want to do. If I'm going to do business with someone, I want to be able to enhance their life, add value to them. I want to be able to get to know them as well. And if I don't get to know them, then I don't think I could truly help them out, because I think I was put here to connect with people and help them, in any way that I possibly can.
Yeah.
Whether it's help them take that extra vacation, help them understand that life is here today, gone tomorrow, help them with peace of mind that they can actually do some of the things that they wanted to do or retire earlier than expected. And it's not always about the numbers or the percentage of return that they get. It's just understanding that there's more to life than what they think, right?
Yeah.
And that there's nothing stopping them. They can do whatever they want to do. So, I love what we do here at our company and being helping them retire and plan for retirement and living their best life is the most important thing. I think that we do here, providing the value to our clients.
Absolutely. You do, in a huge way, because, these critical things, whether it be people's faith, their family, finances right in there. And you are helping, and you can't help but merge. They're all interconnected, and you can't help but merge those because, helping even manage people's wealth and their finances is a great stewardship gift. But you do have to align it and say, what matters most? What will help us? How can we get to know you really well and become friends and be part of our community so we can help you live your best life? And why it's so important is you get one life to live. Yeah. And if it's possible, how can we help your life echo into the next generation too? And so I think it's powerful what you all do. That's why I'm always so impressed. Like I know by default, I'm like, oh, they own and run a financial planning firm. They're super gifted. These are super smart people. You'd be crazy not to trust them with your money. But I'd say you'd be really crazy to choose any other firm than you guys because you've seen the bigger vision of life. You've seen the bigger mission of what matters, and you're helping others be part of that community saying, are you seeing the bigger vision and mission of your life? And when you do, man, we'd be honored to come serve you and help you make that happen.
I would hope that whether I'm seeing a doctor or anyone, that they care about me just like they care about themselves or their family, right?
Yeah.
I think that's always been our look at this is I want to treat them like I would treat my mom or how I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people too, and I don't want you to use names, but maybe someone who life went off track.
Yep.
But how they might have found hope again later in life. And I know you started off with a story about, how church was this past week. And, but in general, do you have any of those stories you could share? Yeah,
no, absolutely, man. It's interesting. I think of, there's a individual that's part of our church and a great guy. And, in fact, I had a privilege of doing a wedding for them years ago and had a bad substance abuse problem and dealt with it. And then it began to rear its head again. And then he didn't seek out help. And it really rised up in his life where he got the best of him and he ended up going through divorce. And he was really ready to give up. He just thought, I've made such a big mistake and hurt people, created collateral damage with this woman I loved, created collateral damage with my kids. And, and he got to this point where he felt, here was the dangerous spot. He got to a spot where he really felt unworthy of a second chance.
Wow.
And that's what he shared to me. And no matter what we would say or I would or others, no, you got so much life to live. You got a second chance. You got to try to make it.
Too far gone.
He just thought, I'm too far gone. And I think it's one of the most dangerous territories that we can find ourselves in. It's like you are in enemy territory when you're there. You're right in the enemy's hands when you're there. When you feel like I am not worthy of loving, I am not worthy of being loved, I am not worthy of a second chance or any kind of redemption. And I think one of the greatest things, part of our faith journey and our life journey, is not the high moments where it's like, look what we did, or we never screwed up, or we're awesome. I'm like, well, nobody wants to hear that story. Tell me about the underdog. Tell me about the person that like, whoa, you really screwed up. Or, whoa, you really caused some damage. Not that that's our goal, but it happens. No. It's life. We live in a broken world. I mean, it was probably like a month and a half ago. I was taking time to pull out of this place and somebody waved their hand and gave me the middle finger. And I realized I saw in the rearview mirror, it was a person from our church. I thought that's awesome.
Did you confront them?
They're real? No, I just tell a story about them on stage. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's fun because we're all real. But my friend, I said, dude, you can't be here. If you really believe you're not worthy of a second chance, then you're really telling me you're just ready to give up on everything.
Yeah.
I said, the fact that I'm sitting here with you, I believe you're worthy of a second chance, but here's what I believe. Way more important than my voice or yours, Tim, or anybody else. I really believe if you give yourself some time as you're seeking God and you can hear in that small, still voice or that nudge or just something in a way that you would understand it, that would nudge you and say, you're worthy and I love you of a second chance. I think that is so powerful because it's the second chance moments. It's the redemption stories, the comeback stories that are so powerful.
So powerful.
Because you move into the future with a sense of deep humility. You know where you were and what you did and what happened or what happened to you. And so you have a new reverence for life, how precious and valuable it is. You know what you don't like and don't ever want to do again. And so you have more purpose and focus and direction. And you know what it felt like to have your heart broke or break others' hearts. And so you feel more full of love than you ever did before, and so that's what I see. I see this as a great turning point for people when they get there.
Do you see though that, because obviously we learned that we have a forgiven God whose son died on the cross for us.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're afraid to ask for forgiveness? They don't feel they've earned forgiveness or they deserve forgiveness? What do you think that is?
I do. I think I think often it's because we just don't feel worthy. We don't feel lovable. That's why even families, right, are so important to love children. Even like us being involved with foster care is such a big deal, because if a child at some level is not loved and nurtured and cared for, they will grow up with a permanent brain wiring almost of thinking, I'm never, that's who I am. I'm an unlovable person.
Never good
I'm
enough.
not worthy. And then what we do, because our self-protectivism in ourselves, we can't live unlovable. It'll destroy us. So we harden up, we create defenses, we create, and then we get offensive. I say when you get defensive, you actually become offensive. You become you repel people, you don't let people get in, you keep everyone at an arm's length. And that's no way to live, because now you're living in prison, again. And so it's helping people understand. It's like, dude, you are lovable. You absolutely are. Did you make a mistake? Yep, for sure we all do. But it's possible to have a redemption element in your story.
Yeah.
And man, I just encourage people, seek it out, because when it happens, like I said, it allows you to live the second leg of your journey, or the next several weeks, months, years in your life in a more potent, more powerful way. And, with more love, more humility, a more heart to serve, than ever before, because again, when you get there and you feel unworthy, you're in enemy hands.
Yeah.
And you're just going to get destroyed. And that's not God's plan or purpose for your life at all.
Absolutely not.
I don't believe it every fiber in my being believes God wants to redeem people, set them on strong ground, and give them big purpose, Yeah.
And it's hard for some people to, just the belief in general, right? About God or Jesus and, hey, show me a sign now.
Yeah.
Right. And they're looking around and saying, all right, I don't have a sign. So,
yeah,
there isn't a God, or there, whatever. Is there anything that you've come across, like a story where it just gave you chills?
Oh yeah, man. It's been amazing. Just, different people that I've had the privilege to be with and connect with and hang out with. And, I just, I even think about the young lady that was just on our stage, Kayla, this past Sunday. I'm definitely not oversharing, because it's something that she decided to share on her own, from stage, but she was so depressed and so anxious and so worried and struggling with agoraphobia and all these things. And she was ready to just throw in the towel and give up, and for her, it was something where she really had shared. She just really felt God nudging on her heart that, hey, I'm not done. I'm not done telling your story. And she just felt this way, what we were just talking about. She felt so broken. She's like, I can't come to God because I'm too busted. I'm too broken. I got to polish myself. I got to do this. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't do it. And she really just one day felt like this nudge, like God's like, no, man, I'm with you. I'm for you. And you can see it. It's been a significant shift. And all of a sudden, several months later, here she is on stage, and she's sharing to other people, not in a religious way, but a very relational, purposeful way. And she's telling people, I'm worth loving. I was a mess, and I had depression. I had all the stuff I was struggling with, but I was worth loving. And there was a God that loved me, and I heard his voice, and it's changing my life. And you just knew, listening to her, it's not the pastor telling you, or that guy gets paid to do it, or it's not the church. This was just a real person in a real dialogue way saying, I'm telling you, I had an experience with God, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
And it's moving me in a better direction, in a purposeful one. And it's amazing, And I've had crazy things where this sounds wild. We were at the River Church, and then we were going to leave, come to Kensington. But I didn't even know if Kensington was the place to be. I never even heard about them. And so for about 7 months, I was working in a long-term care facility as a chaplain. Maria was a nurse there, and she's an RN. And then I was working for my buddy doing fire alarm inspections. He had a big fire alarm company, and he was overpaying me to probably screw up fire alarms. There are probably buildings out there right now in Metro Detroit area that the fire alarms may not work as good as they should, because I was in there. But I'll never forget, I was in this like closet. It was like the utility closet where you go in and there's like the fire alarm panel and all that kind of stuff. And I'm there and I'm just sitting there and I was like, man, God, if you're there, if you want me to go to Kensington, you got to give me a clear picture. You got to tell me. And I got a picture. I'll send it to you saying, oh, this is not like a BS story. It's honest to God truth. And the laptop cord that was connected to my laptop wasn't working. So I went into the bag and I pulled out another one. And my buddy, Tommy, he actually, sad story, he passed away, but he owned IQ Life Safety Systems. Their company's phenomenal. So I pull out another laptop cord, I plug it in. And on the side, I noticed in the box, it said Kensington. I said, oh my gosh. And I texted Marie. I said, dude, God gave me a sign. She said, from what? I said, a laptop charger, you know?
Oh, Kensington, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, holy cow. And sometimes it can be a moment as simple as that. But I think it was that laptop charger that changed the trajectory of our life and brought Mary where we are 10 years later. You know, it can be a moment as small as that.
Something small. But you have to be open to it.
You got to be open for it.
You have to open for it. You know,
you do.
When Luna was gone, but she had gone back to her mom for reunification, you know, roughly about three weeks ago. And obviously family having a hard time, you know, missing her and everything else. And Julie and myself, we had a conversation and, you know, we were tearing up and talking and everything else. And I think I went out to the garage to work out. She went in the basement to do something. And then she came up and she was like, where did we get this? And it was this little baby Jesus about this big. And she was like, it was on the stair.
Wow.
And I'm like, on a stair? Why is it sitting on a stair? You know, first of all, I was like, Luna's been gone for like 3 weeks. So, you know, it's not like she was out playing with toys or anything. And I was like, I don't even remember having that. She probably got it from church.
Yeah.
But it was just, you know, a little sign that, hey, she's going to be okay. Or our oldest daughter, Caitlin, took Luna to Build-A-Bear at the mall.
Yeah.
And one of the gifts she had given Julie and myself was Luna's voice on the bear, on one of the bears. So she, you know, she had her voice on for me and her voice on for Julie. And it was on this top shelf in our closet over the weekend.
Yeah.
It was kind of like pushed in there. So it was in there, you know, pretty tight.
Yep.
And again, we were having this conversation of, man, I sure miss her and I hope she's okay and everything else with her circumstances. And next thing you know, Julie's like, you know, walks in and this bear falls down. Wow. And then of course plays the music, hits the hand and it plays her little voice. And it's just like one of those little signs that God says, you know, I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you. Don't worry about it. I'm taking care of her.
Absolutely. I do. So. I got a good friend of mine, Adam Lamb, and he's in Texas now, and he's just a phenomenal entrepreneur. But at a time, years ago, 15 years, he was a bad alcoholic, grew up in a crazy home, and was an atheist, and had completely, and he used to tell me, dude, this God stuff, it's crazy. You're crazy. You're a good guy. I love you, but you're a nut for following some mythical being, dude. Get a hold of yourself, you know? And he had this major encounter with God that only, and it's his story to tell, and he'd have to explain it. He'd be a great guy to come on the podcast, phenomenal guy. And it just shifted everything in his wake up call where he heard the voice of God and he shifted and he's written like 4 books. He's built multiple companies up. He just built one big company up for a men's health, you know, company that I've shared with you and told you about and sold it to a subsidiary of Tony Robbins. Like he's done this, all these phenomenal things. He's, just ran for a major board on this township down in Texas, which Texas is like its own country, right? It's huge. Yeah. And he's got all these ambitions and he relates it all back to Matthew 6:33, where it's like, seek first the kingdom of God and all the things that you really long for, that you really are passionate about, that maybe you didn't even know you're passionate about, God will reveal those. So, and it really just sums up this. Say, what do you mean by that? Go all in.
Go all in.
If you're going to seek God, go all in. Don't be religious. Don't just be real and authentic and go in and say, God, if you're real, talk to me, man. Hit some churches up, open up the Bible, listen to some podcast, like just begin to walk around in creation and be like, did you create this stuff? You know, talk to me. Cause I just think, man, one of the biggest misses in life, the biggest miss in life is to not know your creator. Yeah. It's to not know that you have a God.
Understanding that you mean, you know, praying doesn't have to be saying a Catholic prayer or anything else. It could just be having a conversation.
Just a conversation. Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about a convo like you and I are having. Somebody's speaking, someone's listening. Somebody talks again, and then you're listening. It's reciprocal. Yeah. That's what makes it real. You know?
Absolutely.
So
do you see, you know, in a lot of the issues at whether it's someone going through a hard time at church, and I know it's all different kinds, right? It's cancer, it's divorce or whatever. Do you see money being in the middle of a lot of those situations?
Oh yeah. I think sometimes money becomes, something somebody's desperate for, or it's become like a deity in their life. They've allowed it to be the most important thing, and they forgot it is an important thing, but it's a tool in your tool belt to help you live a purposeful life. I see it's come up a lot about being charitable. Yeah. It's my money. And I think Steve Anders always said it good because, he believes deeply in what we're about, whether we're helping people through Celebrate Recovery. We're helping put wells in Africa so there can be villages built around fresh water where people aren't walking 7 miles in one direction to get clean water. And it's not even clean water. It's water that animals have been peeing in and all sorts of gross stuff. And,
Unbelievable.
Or it's a story of marriages being reunified or foster care families finding forever homes. All things are part of it. He says, I believe so deeply that I don't feel bad at all asking you, you should donate or give here because we believe in what we're doing. It's making a forever impact. But if you don't, that's okay. But he goes, I would tell you something because you're not going to outlive your money. You're going to, when you go, there's not going to be U-Haul tied behind your hearse kind of deal.
No, can't take it with you.
Can't take it with you. He's like, so I challenge you to be charitable somewhere, so yeah, money, I think it comes up a lot because even God makes a statement about it. He goes, you can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and money. And again, he's not diminishing money. And it's even like someone's like, money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. It's the love of it. It's the absolute cherishing and deifying of it. It's versus saying, no, this is something we get to manage and we get to use it to bless our lives and bless other people. Yeah. And so,
I think that's the way I look at it, growing absolutely. Up, not a whole lot of money. I would consider ourselves, above poor, but not much. Parents always borrowing money just to pay bills. And now anytime I have a chance, whether it's a tip at a restaurant or, whether it's one of my nieces or nephews on their birthday, just giving that little extra money because it means so much more to that person. And it's rewarding to see that, right?
Absolutely.
And because you don't know what other people are going through or, the income that they have. And when you're able to help them out, it means more to give.
It is. I mean, literally, it's like, in Scripture and Acts, Paul wrote most of the New Testament, and this guy had a radical conversion knowing Jesus. Quotes Jesus says, it's better to give than receive. And I look, even for Marie and I, in this next chapter of life, as she's got her RN, she's talking about getting her master's, and I'm like, what are other entrepreneurial things I could do? And we both have this similar heartbeat. We want to do more. Does that mean we could at some point maybe give more? So many people, Tim, have given to Marie and I when it mattered most. I'll never forget Absolutely. When we were getting ready to leave the River Church and come to Kensington. And I was making peanuts, man, not much, in ministry. And we went from making really good money, right? Doing mortgages, all that stuff, then doing ministry and didn't make really good money. And we were down to our last dollar. In fact, we needed enough for a mortgage payment, utility bill, all this kind of stuff. We tallied it all up. We were behind in a couple bills, and it was almost $4,000. And to me, it might as well have been $40,000 or $4 million. It felt like just an insurmountable amount of money at the moment years ago. And this guy kept calling me from the previous church because I need to meet with you. And I was so embarrassed. I don't want to meet with him because I know he's going to ask, how's it going? How's the church planning thing going? And I want to be awesome, but really I'm like, it sucks. We're not doing good and we're broke. And he comes to me, and this again is one of those true stories where only God could have orchestrated this. And we sit down, we're in Baldwin, and we sit down in this cafe, and I think it's called Iris Cafe, and I think it's changed the name of it. But we sit down in this cafe, and this gentleman named Dan, he goes, my wife and I have been praying. We've been thinking about you and Maria a lot and knew what a risk this was. And you've been on our hearts a lot. And I felt so honored. I'm like, who the heck are we? This guy's been praying for us
you
and
guys.
Thinking about us. I felt really loved and seen in that moment because I'm just like, dude, I'm a failure. I'm screwing up and I'm trying to make progress and it's not working. And he pulls a check out and he slides across. He said, we were supposed to give this to you. I'm like, oh man, I don't need any. I can't take it. He goes, no. He goes, dude, it's not up to you. This is what God wants us to do. Wow. And he gives it, and I look at the check, and I swear to you, as Lord is witness, it's for $4,000. And I remember sitting at the table, crying like a big baby. I'm an emotional guy anyhow. Yeah. My dad's always like, you never would have played pro football. You're too emotional. You could have with your size, but you're just too emotional. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And his generosity, Dan and his wife, Kathy, their generosity, it changed our life, and it changed our, like in real time and forever, and so I would just say generosity will change your life forever.
Probably a lot of things if we think about our past life, right? Like what has transpired and what's happened over our years. There's a lot of times where we've gotten help that we probably forgot about to get us to where we're at today.
Yeah.
And, recently with our Light the Way Foundation, our nonprofit, helping a family out and hearing that they're having trouble even buying when affording like toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then it just puts life in a perspective like, hey, we don't have to be rich and very wealthy to give back. Even something like toilet paper could help a family out. And that has a big impact.
A huge impact. I mean, can you imagine if our whole, Live Your Best Life community, if everybody, even for like, I don't know, like the month of February said, we're just going to find one person and do some kind of, and let it be a silent or private act of generosity. It could be somebody in front of you that you try to pay for their groceries, though everything's like self-checkout now and stuff. Might be kind of tricky to do, but you're right. Just something you could do for somebody buying their Starbucks, whatever, but just do it in the heart. Just say, I'm going to be open-handed. Why be close-handed? You can't take it with you.
No.
Be open-handed and do whatever feels right in your own heart. That's what I always tell people. Even if you're not a big prayer, just pray real quick and say, God, what feels right in my own heart? And let God pop something in your heart, man. And just be generous to somebody else. Because you never know. It could literally change their life.
Yeah. And you don't know what they're going through. I don't know how many
through.
times I found this. Like, oh, that guy's a jerk, right?
Yeah.
I initially make that decision, my opinion on them.
Yep.
And then realize, oh my gosh, he's going through cancer, or he just lost his brother, or he just lost his job, right? Or
Absolutely.
they're struggling to pay for toilet paper in this situation, let's say. And you're like, I can't believe I just, decided that about that person without even getting to know them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so quick of us to give judgment and get it what we don't know.
I just judge that person, Well, I've got some rapid fire questions for you here before we wrap up. But, one habit you see in people who age with joy. What's one habit?
Oh, man, gratitude. I feel like every time I run into these people, they're telling me something like they're thankful for or somebody they're thankful about. Or something they're thankful they get to do.
Sure.
But those people, like no matter what, they always seem like they're vibrant and living a good life and strong,
How about one thing people overestimate that doesn't matter in the end?
Oh, perfection. Perfection. I tell people, be present over being perfect. Yeah. Show up and be fully engaged, fully present, and apologize if you screw up, apologize if it wasn't enough or whatever, but don't try to show and be perfect. Because number one,
most time you're not.
You're not. Yeah. I mean,
90%. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, we're like, I'll say like more often than not, I'm the number one person I think about is me, and I'm overrated. I need to think about myself less. Not think less of myself, but to think about myself less. But just who cares about being perfect? Just show up and be present.
Be you.
Be you. Yeah.
How about one thing people underestimate that matters immensely?
What you said, one thing they underestimate?
One thing people underestimate that matters immensely.
Oh, man. I think putting others above yourself. And I'd say, let me say it more specifically, putting those that are closest to you above yourself. You're going to find the most joy in life helping others succeed. And you're going to rob the most joy out of your life by helping yourself succeed over and over. Yes. Like if you want to be successful, great. But let your greatest success be helping others find success.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that one. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh man, so much of it. Jeez. Probably, I think one in parenting, it's not as big of a deal as you think. Overreacting, flipping out about, they got to do this. They got to eat their food. They got to, I'm like, Marie and I lost our crap so many times overreacting about things like that,
Myself as well, yeah.
Yeah, we gave way.
Let them be kids.
Yeah, let them be kids,
They're going to make it through.
They'll make it through, yeah.
How about what gives you the most hope right now?
I think what we talked about, so much of it, I know it kind of not dominated, but it was a dominant theme today for you and I, that God has a great purpose for me. Not that I'm awesome or anything at all, or I've arrived, but that, I believe that with all my heart, and I feel like it brings me great hope. It gives me great hope. Even now, as I sit and think about it, put a smile on my face, I think about the future. I think about our friendship. I think about what ways can we help support the vision you and Julie have. You guys support the vision Kensington. I mean, I'm like so hopeful because I believe what we're about is purpose and mission. And it gives me hope. It just always does.
I love that too. Now, someone sitting here listening today, they're successful, but they're restless.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them?
Oh man, I'd encourage them, and I struggle with this. Some people are phenomenal at journaling, but I would challenge them to take a couple hours and go somewhere that's life-giving. And listen, life-giving. Well, we're in Michigan, so don't go to a park. Wherever you're going to go outside. If you need to get on a flight and you need to go to Florida for a day or two or a weekend or whatever, go somewhere that's life-giving, and you bring that journal and you write down what are the things. If I could do over, what would they be? A couple of things we talked about, those regrets. And then out of those, some of those you can't do over, ain't no big deal. But what could you do moving forward? Because believe it or not, there are some of those things you can still do, and I challenge them. They're feeling restless. Then I'd say you're feeling that you're lacking purpose. You're not feeling directional. And the problem, the dangerous thing I'd warn them about, you're going to drift. And you might be comfortable and you got plenty of money and everything's great, but you don't want to drift.
You don't want to drift at all.
You especially don't want to drift in the latter. If this is I don't want to say it like it's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing, but the last leg of the journey for you, this is your sage stage, your opportunity to make a high contribution to those that you love and care about. And then, man, get focused, go write down what are those things, and then find someone that'll hold you accountable and say, this is what we're going to do, and make a plan around it and do it.
That's so important, especially that second leg, like you said, or that last leg, because time's not on your side. It's more important now to LYBL more than anything.
Live your best life, write it down, and bring people around it. There's always great people around you. Could be your spouse, probably should be, right? You should always say that. Could be some kids, could be anybody. Just bring someone around you. I always believe God's got great people for us in the wings, ready to help us,
Well, we've talked about it all show, LYBL. What does live your best life mean to you?
Yeah. When I think about it, live your best life is don't waste any time. Don't waste your time on things that don't matter, and spend your time on the things that matter most. And that might sound like distilled down, or, somebody say, oh, it's watered down. No. I'd say it's distilled. It's brought to a more perfect space. Time is fleeting. We're at our halfway markers. If I make it to 90, you whatever, you make it to 106 or something, you never know. Let's say we're at the halfway markers. I'm being generous to us right now. I want to make sure that every minute, every moment matters more than ever over the next several years, the next, 3-4 decades God would give me. Yep. I want it to be purposeful, and I want it to live beyond me. I really do. And I don't want to hold back. And I don't want to, I just don't want to hold back.
Yeah.
So
just let it be.
Let it be. Yeah.
Because you don't know unless you do it. Right. But last final question would be, so years from now, your kids, grandkids, hopefully, they're telling your story.
Yeah.
What would you like them to say about you? What do you want to be remembered for?
I'd love to be remembered for that Jeremiah helped people find their way. Jeremiah helped people succeed. He helped build others up. I really feel like that's what I'm built to do. My job is to be an encourager, and to be, the adult child of the alcoholic life I grew up in would say I'm an enabler, but I think God's vision for my life is say you're an encourager, and I want to encourage people, no matter how painful or difficult it is, to take bold, radical decisions to move in their faith, recognizing they're created by God that has a purpose for them, and that they do something meaningful with their life and they love well, Well,
I think that is your purpose, because you are that person, and you do a great job of it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast today. And I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of this show. And we appreciate you being on the LYBL podcast. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again sometime.
No, we'd love it, man. We love you and Julie and your team. And God bless your whole community, man. You guys have a beautiful community you're building. And it's been a privilege. So thanks for having us.
Thank you for being on.
You bet, man.
Thanks for tuning in. If this episode sparked something in you or made you realize it's time to stop guessing and start planning, we'd love to meet with you. No matter where you are, no matter when you start, you deserve to live your best life. We'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and your family. Remember, living your best life isn't a destination, it's a decision. And it's a decision that you get to choose. Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and keep living boldly.
Investment advisory services offered through Strategic Wealth Advisors Group, Incorporated, a Securities and Exchange Commission registered investment advisor. Content contained herein is for informational purpose only and is not intended and should not be construed as personalized investment advice or an offer for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of loss, including possible loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here. Content provided may be obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but cannot be guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness.